One of my hobbies is to go out and find rock art.
Speaking of which, I wanted to tell you about this before I forgot as well. Up here in Manitoba, just north of Winnipeg, do a search at your leisure on Manitou Api because they're petriforms. Like one is in the shape of a turtle, another one is in the shape of like a medicine wheel. It's called Manitou Api. It's a very, very sacred place for the Anishinaabe in this area. I've been there a few times, and it's a very sacred place.
Is this like medicine wheels?
Well, one of the
Art.
rock forms they say is a medicine wheel. Another one is a turtle,
I've read about this, and I've been to the Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Wyoming,
right?
which is, I think, probably an extension of that
Yeah,
that
it's
whole.
huge. Yeah. This one is maybe like 4 to 6 feet. It's not huge, but it's just all there's about I don't know. I'd say a dozen different what they call them is petriforms, where they say the ancestors of this area made these back in their day, and in their spiritual visions or whatnot. A very
Mhm.
interesting place.
The Hopi have a tradition of migrating to the north. They call it the back door of the world for some reason.
Okay, I'm not gonna go into specifics here, but I'm gonna send you a couple of files that are of some pictographs. I used to live in BC, and an elder took me to. It's not really a cave; it's more of an overhang. But when you first walking into the cliff face, there's some pictographs on the cliff face. But then when you go in the cave or slash overhang, there's more pictographs in there. I kind of became the caretaker of the place for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. I'd go out there and make sure it's clean, and I'd sit and meditate and have awesome visions. And I've been asking people about these pictographs because I have a theory.
But yeah, I'd like to see those.
Yeah, I have a theory that they've had people from up north come down and read them, and I just have my own theory that what it was, and there's a whole story to this. It's way too long to get into here, but at some point we'll have to have a chat about this. My understanding is that, and this is from my sitting in the cave and having visions with the ancestors, that there was a family or a group, but I look at it as ended up as a family, and they came up, and this was actually the furthest they got before the last one perished, and this was their last. This is where they died at, and it tells the story of them coming up this way. So I'll send you those and see what
Okay.
you think,
Be interesting.
because they're very different from all the other pictographs in this area of BC in the Kootenays. It's very different from any of the other ones that are around, and there's many different native tribes and such in that area, but very different from all of them. So yeah, I will send you those.
Well, I heard a few years ago that west of Calgary a ways, there are some snake petroglyphs that the Hopi claim that they migrated up there and carved those snake petroglyphs. So, I don't know if this. I haven't been up there to look at them, but
Yeah.
this is interesting that the Hopi would go so far from their traditional homeland, go up into Canada and carve these petroglyphs. But there are traditions of migrations going up into the North Country, into a snowy realm, the back door of the world, they said, and then migrating back down this way.
On a side tangent, and this correlates to this in my own uh, unsound reasoning, do you know much about Hovenweep?
I haven't been. I've been planning to go up there a lot. There are a lot of alignments with solstice alignments, like on the winter solstice. There's a certain alignment in the buildings, but I'd love to make it up there, and I might be going up there this spring or summer because I want to get up to Hovenweep and a couple other sites in that region. But there are definitely a lot of the buildings are aligned in certain ways, and some of the petroglyphs are aligned. So to highlight the summer and winter solstices, because this is the way that the ancient people kept track of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the famous sun dagger at Fajada Butte in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, which I haven't been to the sun dagger because they won't let you go up there anymore. But I have been to Chaco Canyon. A few years ago, Robert Redford put out a documentary on. If any of your listeners can catch this documentary, you might be able to get it on the internet, or I think National Geographic put it out. It's a great documentary highlighting the sophistication that these ancient people used to align their buildings to the sunrise at specific times of the year, specifically the solstices, because they needed a kind of a calendar to keep track of the sun rising on the horizon, so they knew where they were in the agricultural calendar. So it's just a kind of mind-boggling, the sophistication that they used to keep track of time.
Yeah. The connection for me was Hove and Weep.
The buildings are out there in the middle of nowhere, so to speak,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to going up there. What kind of revelation did you come up with when I mean feeling that you did you come up with when you went there?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole story to this, and it's a story that took about 8 years to fulfill. And I've been to Hove and Weep at least twice, maybe three times. Like I say, time I don't do time well. And on my first trip, uh, I'll tell you the story. Um, I was walking around the ruins, and this little ancestor dude appeared beside me in spirit form, and he had a red um, thing around his head, and a not a loincloth, but some kind of leather tunic thing, and sandals, and but weird sandals. Just it was kind of there wasn't any sides. It was more or less just a sole, and then these bindings all the way up to like mid calf.
Hmm.
And he takes me around some ruins, and he takes me into this cave, and I'm crawling on my hands and knees. And now I'm in like meditative state, so I can't even tell you whether or not this was a physical cave or not. Um, and this is under no influence of any kind of psychotropics, or this is all natural. And as I'm crawling into the cave, my left hand hits something, and I brush away the sand, and it's bone. And I say to the dude, because Billy taught me well, I said, and I'll say it just as I said it to him. I said, I was taught not to fuck with bone. And he says, no, you gotta take this. And so I say again, I was taught not to fuck with bone. And he says, no, you need to take this. And I said, okay, who am I to argue with you? So I take it. I come back up to where I used to live in BC. And I'm carrying this bone now for, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. One of my visionings or meditations in this cave or this overhang kind of starts to become clear. And so I take the bone and I put it in the cave. And I say, okay, if this bone is still here in 4 days, I'll come back and get it. So I come back in 4 days, the bone is still there. So I sit in meditation again and ask, what am I? And then it just all came to me. And this poem came out called Home. And so what, in my mad reasoning, is that it was kind of a transference of the spirit of those ancestors to take them back home to Hovenweep, where they originated from.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a great story, George.
That was the condensed version.
You can feel spirits up there, if you can get off by yourself, away from the tourists,
Yep.
and the beaten. And Hovenweep is kind of off the beaten path.
It's
I've been to Mesa Verde, which is a little more popular, and tourists. You run into more tourists
no,
there.
I was in Hovenweep, and there was nobody else.
Yeah,
Nobody.
yeah. Like I say, I'm planning to go up there. That's one of the spots.
I've been to
that,
Chaco. I haven't been to Mesa Verde, but I've been to Chaco, and for me, Hovenweep is I just get massive attunements there. It's a wicked place. The hairs in the back of your neck will just go ding. There's some stuff happening there.
yeah. There are quite a few sites here in Arizona that produce the same thing. Wupatki National Monument is a great place that people can go to, and sometimes you can catch it when there are not too many people around. There's supposedly a ball court there. This is north of Flagstaff, on the way to the Grand Canyon, and there's a ball court. It's the northernmost ball court on the North American continent. So this tradition goes all the way back down to the Maya. 1,400 miles away.
Wow.
You can go in this ball court, and there's what's called a blowhole. It's right by this ball court. It's a place where you stick your head down this hole, and according to the way the air pressure is on the particular day, there's either air being sucked into this hole or very cool air being blown out. Usually in the summertime, cool
Weird.
air just blowing. It's like you're standing in front of an air conditioner or something, and you can smell the earth. You could smell something very primal, kind of an earth mother. You can almost smell the earth mother down in this hole. It's a very strong feeling that you get these subterranean passageways, and that whole area around Bupatki is sort of honeycombed with these subterranean passageways, and some of them lead over to Grand Canyon. And like I say, the Hopi have a tradition of coming up from a particular place in the Grand Canyon, a subterranean realm.
Are they any relation to I've heard of this tribe, someplace within the Grand Canyon, the Havasupai?
The Havasupai, yeah, they're a little bit to the west of the major Grand Canyon area, but they're down in the Grand Canyon, yeah.
Are they any relations to the Hopi?
Well, I think a lot of these tribes are all related. They all came
Yeah.
from these ancient people in ancient times. Um, what tribe is probably not related, or a couple tribes, are the Navajo and the Apache,
Right.
which came down into the area, and there's dispute on when they came down. Some say like 1500s. They migrated into Arizona from the north, and the Apache also migrated down from the north into this region. But the Havasupai and a lot of the Pueblo people, the Zuni over in western New Mexico, and the Laguna people, and all those Rio Grande people, they're all from these ancient. Well, the Hopi say they're Hizatsinom, or literally the ancient ones. That they're descended from these people that originally lived there and built these ancient pueblos. A pueblo is a kind of like a stone apartment building, an ancient apartment building village, and they're all descended from the ancient people that lived here, thousands of years ago. I was going to say that there's a specific place in the Grand Canyon. It's on the north bank of the Little Colorado River, and it's called the Sipapu. It's a geological structure called a travertine dome, and it's kind of a limestone dome that's built up, and it's perfectly round, and there's a hole right in the middle of it. And the Hopi say that they came out from this particular spot on the earth, on the riverbank, and they crawled up out of the Grand Canyon and began to spread out across the land. But there's a very specific, and you can see it. I have pictures in my book about it. You can see it on Google Earth. I'm planning to do a trip up there because I've seen from Google Earth a lot of anomalous things up there that I'd like to investigate further. A lot of kind of anomalous ruins in that area. And traditionally, the Hopi made migrations to this particular spot to gather ritual salt. In fact, the Hopi, they don't call it Grand Canyon, they call it Salt Canyon.
Oh, huge deposits of salt there?
There are these natural pockets of salt down in the canyon there that they went down to get, to use in various rituals.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so they have a mythical relationship with this particular spot on the earth. It's kind of a dangerous place to go to. I mean, especially in the summertime when you have these thunderstorms come, and a lot of flooding, flash flooding through the canyons. In fact, a few years ago, a number of the experienced hikers who lived in Flagstaff were swept away, and their bodies were found downstream in the Grand Canyon. So, it can be a very treacherous place to go if you want to hike down the Salt Trail, they call it. But in this area, there are things that need to be investigated.